before Halloween, before costumes, pumpkins, and trick-or-treat. Portugal had a ritual older, quieter, and far more mysterious. It is called Pão por Deus, bread for God, a tradition that still echoes through narrow streets and village doorsteps on the 1st of November. Children walk from house to house, holding cloth bags or handmade baskets, reciting ancient rhymes that have survived centuries. They're not asking for tricks. They're not demanding sweets. They're asking for something much deeper, a symbolic offering tied to memory, charity, and the souls of the dead. Today we'll explore the forgotten origin of this ritual, from ancient Mesopotamian beliefs to the Celtic world, from medieval Portugal to the devastating Lisbon earthquake of 1755, and finally to the doorways where children still whisper, Pão por Deus, Bolinhos e Broinhas. Welcome to the true story of Portugal's Pão por Deus, the ancient Portuguese ritual that came before Halloween. To understand Pão por Deus, we must travel far back, thousands of years, to times when the line between the living and the dead was thin and frightening. In ancient Babylon, offerings of bread and beer were placed in tombs so the dead would not rise in hunger. In Egypt, funerary bread, jars of wine, figs, dates, and even replicas of kitchens were buried with the deceased. The dead were not gone. They had simply moved somewhere else, and they still needed nourishment. Across the ancient world, food was a bridge, an act of remembrance, a negotiation between the visible and the invisible. But nowhere did this idea take root more powerfully than among the Celts. Their festival of Samhain, on the night of October 31st, marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter, a moment when the boundary between worlds faded. Fires were lit, masks were worn, and food was left outside homes so that the returning dead could eat and pass peacefully, not for entertainment, not for fun, but out of respect and fear. This ancient ritual of feeding the departed is the seed from which Pão por Deus would one day grow. When Christianity spread across Europe, it did not erase old traditions. It reshaped them. The Celts' Samhain became All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on November 2nd. But the idea of feeding spirits lived on. Only now, the food was given to the poor, and the poor, in return, prayed for the souls of a household's ancestors. Across Europe, similar rituals appeared. In England and Ireland, souling, requesting soul cakes. In Poland, dziady, with offerings for the dead. In Germany, seelenbrot, soul bread. Portugal's version emerges early. By the 1400s, documents already mention the Dia de Pão por Deus. Families baked small breads, sometimes shaped like figures or crosses, to give to those who knocked on their doors. A quiet exchange. Bread for prayer, charity for remembrance. A ritual as humble as it was profound. And then came the day that forever altered the meaning of Pão por Deus. November 1st, 1755. Church bells rang across Lisbon for All Saints' Day. Thousands gathered in cathedrals, lighting candles, whispering prayers. At 9:30 a.m., the earth convulsed. 1 minute, then another, and another. Buildings crumbled as if made of sand. Fires ignited everywhere. The ground opened beneath feet. As survivors fled toward the river, seeking safety on open ground, something even more terrifying appeared on the horizon. A wave, a wall of water, rising higher, higher. Lisbon was swallowed. Historians estimate that 85% of the city was destroyed. Thousands dead, thousands more wandering through smoke, ash, and silence. Amidst the ruins, a simple plea echoed, Pão por Deus, bread for God's sake. A cry for help, a cry born of hunger and despair. The phrase, once spiritual, became lifeline, necessity, survival. From that day onwards, the name Pão por Deus carried not only memory of souls, but memory of tragedy. Although uniquely Portuguese, Pão por Deus belongs to a global family of rituals, reminding us that death is not an ending, only a separation. In the British Isles, solars carried lanterns and sang at every door. In the Philippines, Pangangalulua blended music and prayer to collect offerings for masses. In Mexico, the Dia de Muertos transformed cemeteries into gardens of candles and marigolds, with altars overflowing with bread, fruit, and chocolate. Different cultures, different histories, but the same question: how do we honor those who walked before us? For Portugal, the answer was simple: bread, memory, charity. Today, the tradition lives on, sometimes quietly, sometimes proudly, but always warmly. Children carry cloth bags, embroidered pouches, or even plastic buckets. They knock on doors saying, Bolinhos e broinhas, para mim e para ti. Little cakes and small buns, for me and for you. The offerings vary: figs, nuts, pomegranates in rural areas, chocolates, biscuits, and candies in cities. Yet the essence remains untouched. A shared moment between neighbors, a connection between generations, a symbolic offering for the departed. Pão por Deus is more than a ritual. It is a reminder that community survives when memory survives. And now, what about you? Had you heard of Pão por Deus before today? Do you celebrate it in your hometown? Or is this your first encounter with one of Portugal's quietest, oldest traditions? Share your memories or your discoveries below. Because history is not only carved in stone or written in documents. Sometimes it's carried in a small bag of cakes, in a child's rhyme, in a knock at a neighbor's door on a cold November morning. If you enjoyed this journey into Portugal's past, subscribe and join us again. There is always another tale waiting, just beyond the next hill. Portugal Tales continues on your next visit.